Hey guys, it's Josh, and today we're gonna have an interesting catch up. What we're gonna do is just go over Footbagger because I think it's the end of month two, and I also have to do a conversion because Elementor's expired. So what we need to do is start looking at switching over to Oxygen in place of Elementor. So I figured I would just take everybody through building that out and replacing pretty close to what this is within Oxygen instead. And that way, anybody who wants to afterwards can come look at this and learn and see, because most people I see online seem to have a lot of difficulty adjusting to Oxygen coming from other builders like Elementor or Brizzy or Divi. So, what I wanted to do real quick is just say the stats for November came in at 203 page views and 88 users. And we are starting to grow in search a little bit. So average position is 22.9 and CTR is 1.8. But it is nice to see. It means that it's starting to show up a little bit more. And for posts, I think I wrote 6 more this month. 5 more between the last video and this video. So I have a continuation, still have 9 more that I have planned to write that are the next ones in my list to complete. And I just needed to get through this, and I figured I'd show everybody and give everybody a chance to see it live. So I'm going to keep these 2 pages to the side just for easy reminders of kind of how I have everything set up. And what we're going to do is go over here to plugins. We're going to go ahead and deactivate Elementor Pro, deactivate. Don't need them anymore. And then we're going to go ahead and deactivate Generate Box or Generate Press Premium, because Oxygen is a complete website builder. It's not a page builder, as it doesn't need a theme. It actually disables the theme when it's running on the website. So now what we're going to need to do is go add Oxygen. So we're going to go ahead and install Oxygen. Activate. Sorry. And then I'm going to do blank install. For new people, you could actually do a pre-made template and go through. There's a whole big library. I like to start fresh and empty without anything in the first place. For these, you'll want to turn off because you don't want them in the sitemap and the metas. So you want to turn off all these. I don't need them. You don't need them for the templates because the templates aren't what's actually served. That'll give you Oxygen. And just so you guys can see, you can get over to Oxygen Builder. There's no affiliate, there's no anything, which is another reason why I think a lot of people don't talk it up. So inside here, you can actually see all of the different things that they can provide. I can tell you, if you go over here to buy it, the basic is just Oxygen, and you'll get updates for life. WooCommerce gives you the ability to craft and build WooCommerce pages from scratch. And agency is everything. When new stuff comes out, agency will get it for free, whereas basic and WooCommerce, you'd end up having to buy them individually. So if you're going to buy it, I suggest agency because you get everything all the time, and you don't have to worry about it from that point forward. Anything new, you're just going to get grandfathered in. If you can only go with the inexpensive, then $99 one time. This is lifetime and unlimited sites and unlimited customers, so you could build them for other people. what you want to do is choose what works for you, but don't limit yourself. The extra $70 here is worth it big time. But if you can only get this, you can only get this. That's good. And sorry, it's starting to rain. So I would suggest going to oxygenbuilder.com and check it out if you're interested. For us, what we're going to do is just come over here and you can do the setup in here. This is where you put your license in. They cache by default what you want, so it loads the least amount possible. And what you'll want to do is to start in here in the first place. If you go look at your site after it's live, you see that it's incredibly blank because what you have is no theme anymore. So if you go into here and go to themes, you're using Oxygen, which means the theme's never loaded. So it doesn't exist. There is nothing here anymore to present. So what you're going to do first is you need to build templates for what you need to display. So the first one and the primary one that you have to do, I call main and Oxygen will call main. This one contains your header and your footer, and then the inner content as a spacer in between to capture all the pages and the content in the middle. So what you're going to do down here is go to other, and this one's just going to be catch all. So everything by default will get main linked to it. Publish. So now we can go ahead and edit. It's going to go ahead and load. And then we have an example of kind of what I want to stick to. So what we'll do here is just add. We'll do the header builder just because it has some nice organization to itself. And then we can do add a heading. And actually what we'll do is we're going to delete that because I don't want that to be what's loaded on all of our things. So you can select all your text, insert data, and then you can actually do like your site title. And it'll show like this, but it'll load. So you can easily see that's basically what they do here. So now all you have to do is just decide that you want this to be, 36.900 weight. And you already start to have the same text as here. I'm not going to worry about fonts because I can always figure out fonts later. So now you want to add text. And what you're going to want to do is make this, actually what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and open the structure. What we're going to do is wrap this in a div. So now that it's in a divider, we can take this text and move it underneath. So we can take this and you'll see we can go select all, insert data, and again, site info as the tagline. And you'll see it's the same information again. And we can do the same thing here. We can take and make it a little bit smaller. Ooh. Try and figure out the right size for what we have. Now, what we can do is we can come back in here and we'll add a menu. So this menu just has some default styling to it. We'll go ahead and select our primary menu. And then we can go into spacing. I tend to try and make these a little bit closer so they don't take up as much space. And then what I like to do is get rid of this. I don't like the hover background. I don't mind the color. But then you see these look a little bit weird because they're the same color. So in this case, what I tend to do is on the drop downs, I will try and make it a little bit off color. And then the hover color, you can make it a little bit darker again. That way you get some kind of look and feel like you're in something else. And then we can go back. And what we'll do is change the text color to more of like a gray. So I don't mind I'm not a huge fan of the bar across. We could replicate that one too if we wanted to, but I'm going to keep this along the top. What we want to do is, this is all within this row left side. What we want to do is we can pull this over and actually put it inside the right side. So this way, this is split off and away from the rest of the content. So we're going to leave a basic menu there and a basic header. Now what we need is the inner content is just what's going to hold the page. So as you'll see, you can see lots of posts in here. You can actually search for anyone specifically want. We don't care for now, we're just trying to hold the space. And you can see it over here that there's an inner content. So your body, you have the header, inner content, and then what you're going to do is add a section, which is actually going to be your footer. This is going to be attached to the bottom. I'll make it a darker color for now so that we can keep seeing that it's there. And when you look down here, you'll see it's just a fairly straightforward bottom footer. We'll go back through and put some of this in place afterwards. I'm not as worried about filling it in as I am about getting the content back up for everybody to be able to see it. So we're going to save this, and then we've got the main in place. So the main container, which is just your bar, your actual header, and my footer is now in place. So we can go back into the admin side now. And then since we built new colors, we want to regenerate just so that way those colors are available and it knows they're existing. Now what you want to do is go find your pages, and you're going to want your home page. So for the home page, you just want to make sure that you go inside, and we want to go to settings and then reading and make sure home is set. And then we can go to pages. We'll go to home. We'll do edit with oxygen. Now what you'll see is this will come up, and now you'll see there's our header. The inner content is what provides this add elements to this page, and then your footer. So now we can work on this first section. So all we do is add a section, and then what we'll want to do is look and see. So if you look, there's a clean divider right about the middle. So this is obviously 2 sections. So instead what we'll do is do columns and 2. Now, here's where you can put your heading. So this way you'll have your H1 tag for this home page. And then you have this image, which is easy on this side. You would just say add image. And then we just go to browse, and you find your image and select it, put it in place. What you want to do here is you can copy this text. And then what we can do is you can right click, inspect, and you can look and see what you have for sizes. So in here you can see that the font size is 55 and that the font family is Roboto. So over here, what we can do is go to manage, settings, global styles, and then fonts. We can change the heading for fonts so that all fonts would use Roboto, and immediately changed. Here you can also limit the load so that it doesn't load every font for you. And you can say, I only want to load 300 regular and 700. So it's only going to load those 3 unless you change this. If you change this to be 900, it's going to load 900 because you changed it. So in this case, you could set this as 700. Now what you do is you go back through and you go, okay, so how to play Footbag was bold. We can go back into here and we can actually bold this section, and we can unbold this section, and then we can go font size 55. And then you'll see it's already starting to look like this one. You can grab the next set of text, and inside here we'll switch back into the div again, and then we can do add text. And then we can do the same piece, adding it in. Now we've got the text all together. And then what we got to do is grab our button. So there's a lot of ways you can do this inside Oxygen's builder. The most common that most people will use as a button, but it's very specifically set and it's more controlled. What I choose to do instead is to just add a link wrapper, which is just a link overall for anything that you put inside of it. And then you can add text. And then I had that icon, so I can actually add an icon inside my link. I'm going to change them to align horizontally instead and not be on multi-line. And now they're in alignment with each other. We copy that text so we can put that in place. And then this, we can just do right. Change this to about 25. And we'll go to advanced and spacing. And we want to give it a little bit of padding away from the text. Now what we can do is move up and go back to the link wrapper. Alternatively, if you're here, you can do the up to move up the chain, or you can go up to here and you can go to link wrapper and move up the chain. So you can use either or. From here, what you want to do is you can go into typography. We can change our checks to white, and as you'll see, everything went away. But we have a green button. So I'm going to use this. It's just a little plugin to help find colors. That way I can get the same color. Now what I can do is I can go to the background and set the background. And you'll see it's not the same exactly. So what we can do is go to size and spacing, and we can actually add padding on top and bottom and left and right. And it's still not enough. Probably go a little bit bigger like that. And then you can go back, and inside advanced you can go to borders and you can say 25. And now you're starting to look the same as what's here. I can make this a little bit smaller and maybe pull it back a teensy bit. And now it's starting to look a lot like that button. And note there's a shadow, so you can actually go into here, click on your button, your link wrapper again, go to advanced, and there's actually effects. So you can do a whole bunch of transform effects. You can do a whole bunch of things. What we're going to want is the box shadow. For the color, typically black, and typically around, I think 30% is where I end up at most of the time. And then you can do 3, blur, do 5, and I tend to try and keep them a little bit in. So then it's a little bit of a shadow underneath. It's not exactly the same. I don't like shadows going all the way around. I like it when it's subtle shadows. And then you'll see there's some space in between. So if we inspect on there, we can see that the space looks like it's tied to this div. What we can do is look at margin bottom is 20 pixels. We can go to this text, go to advanced, size and spacing, and then just add 20 pixels of margin there. And now we've got our spacing. So we've already, in a short period of time, replicated our top section already real fast. Go ahead and save that. And we can go show you on the front end. So now it's already in place versus the old. And just so everybody can see, you can go into manage settings, and inside global styles, you can set width, so you can make your page wider and you can make it smaller through all these different page width, because you can actually see them all here. So when you're developing a page, you can build it for the desktop here, and then you can on the fly switch it and see what it looks like. So then you can move down. So if you want to, you can play around with how these things fold and how they organize, because maybe you want the image to be above when you do this as a flex. But each one of these is a little bit of a tweak around. So like this one, obviously the text is really big. You'd probably make the text a lot smaller. I might prefer to move the image up top. We'll come back to that in a little bit maybe. That might be day 2. So now we've got this in place. So what we want to do now is we can move on to this next section. So what we'll do is add a new section, and inside here we can add a heading, which will make an H2. We'll align everything in the center, and now we've got the title in place. So what we have is 6 posts here. So what we'll do is there's 2 different ways inside Oxygen. There's easy posts, which come with a whole bunch of presets. You can figure out what you like. We're going to change the query to just be posts. Since it's on the home page, it doesn't know what the posts are supposed to be. And then we're going to do that we only want 6. We're going to apply. And you'll see already that we're almost basically where we were before in that fast a step. So the other way you can do this is more work, but it allows you to do a lot more customization without HTML, because for you to edit this, you have to actually know, because you can edit the PHP and you can edit the CSS and you can change a lot of this, but you're going to need to know PHP and CSS to do this well. What we can do instead is we can delete this, and instead you could add the repeater. And all a repeater is what it says it is. It repeats your query for each result. So you can go into here and go to custom post type. We're going to choose post again. And you'll see it's going to repeat it for every post. And as you'll see, there's no content because there isn't anything there yet for it to actually repeat. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the repeater, and for layout, we don't want them to do vertical posts. We want to do horizontal posts. And then we want multi-line because we want it to feed across to the next line if we need it to. And then what we're going to do is go back over to the query and count. We still want to do the 6. So now when we apply it, it's just going to give us the 6, and then it's going to give us ability to move to the next page. And then pagination will control how these display. I don't tend to change them much. It's going to show up below one way or the other. So we're not going to worry about that part for now until we get the other pieces in place. And as you'll note, inside the repeater is the div. So this is the first container that will be everything about this first post, and basically every element that's repeated for the next post and on. So what we're going to do is we're going to add one more div inside, because we're going to need one to be the link that'll take us to the post. Now we can add, in this case, we'll do an image. We're going to go to data, and we can do featured image. And to make the site load fast, you can actually go into here, size, and you can choose thumbnail as the size you want to use and insert. And now you're seeing this image is here. So now this image is loading from each post, as you can see from each post here. So what you want to do now is you can move back up to that div and size and spacing. What we want to do is maybe give ourselves a little bit of padding. That way we get this nice space in between. From here, inside this one div that you have, you're going to want to go ahead and add your header, right? So now, H3. What you can do is do text, or you can do an H3. I try to keep them as headers just because it's nice structured. Change the size so it's a little bit smaller. You can highlight all of it, insert data, and now you've got what you can select post title and insert. And now all these headers are coming. So as you can see, these do hit the walls, and when they're too long, it's going to push it down in content. So here's where you can play around a little bit with what you have and try and figure out what you like. You could also add a div inside this div to constrain it even further. So typically what you could do is go to this image and wrap that image with a div, and you can move this inside there. And now you can start to say, well, for this div, I only want it to be 50%. So now you can see this div is much bigger. It's taking up a lot of the space, even though what you have inside. So you can play around a lot, and you can build almost anything that you could really think of. You could take this and instead of doing it this way, you could actually make the div go sideways. So then you could do this, and you could extend these out and make them super wide. For those who've seen how Alex did these kind of things, this is what you can do easily with the repeater or with HTML and CSS if you wanted to the other way with the posts, with easy posts. So this way you can lay out anything you want to any style you want. So the repeater takes a lot more time because you've got to do a lot more building. I'm going to remove that, and we're just going to go with the easy posts and move that back to post. Put us back to 6. And we've already got that in place. So now if we save this, now we can just go to the front end again. And this is already in place. And same thing for colors. Inside here, when you go to the templates in CSS, you can actually see all of these things for setting colors, for setting size, for setting space that you have within these. So you can make a change in here. Inside here, you can change what's actually there. So you can change the image to, I think it's post. Can't remember which one it is. I'm only half and half. PHP, a lot of times I've got to go research just because I tend to get the wrong ones when I want to get something. But, you know, if you wanted to say continue reading, you can apply, and now all these are continue reading. So you can just come in here and actually change what the display is. So what we can do now, since that page is done, we can go down. Now we've got the view all articles. So this is just a short link to the blog. And as you'll see, it's just a little green button. So instead what you can do is just clone this. And then what we can do is just drag it down below. And then now we can do view all articles. And we can just do blog for the link. And then what we have to do is remember, I missed that. We need to get this link. Which goes to what we can do is go back over to here, and we will go to posts categories, and we'll just copy the link from here. And now we can just paste the link, and we actually don't need any of that section, and save. Now we've got our page. We can go back to the front end. Now you'll see we need to make a template for the archives. And obviously, same thing, there's a template for posts. So we'll come back to those shortly too. But this way, we're already starting to come together. Now we've got this view all articles. So as we scroll down, now we've got the about section. So what we'll do is make ourselves a new section. Scroll that afterwards. And then inside this section, we will just add a div. I'll go ahead and align everything in the center. We'll max this out at, 70%, 75%. And then we can go back into here, and it looks like it's just one section. So now we can add the heading H2 again. We are going to go ahead and align everything in the center. We are going to add text. And we're just going to copy these into place. You'll see it's all center aligned because the div is center aligned. So we're going to go into the text, go to advanced. We're going to go to typography, align it to the left instead. And then we're going to just clone this. So we're going to add 10 margin to the bottom. Now when we duplicate it, there's going to be a little bit of break between those two. Copy this second section, put it in place here, and now we've got that coming together. Now what we want to do is we're going to do the same thing. We want to give ourselves a little bit of space, so we can do 25 padding and apply to all to give a little bit of padding around this whole box. We'll go back and go to border. We'll go ahead and find a little bit of that. We'll set it to 2 as a width, and then we're going to set it as solid. And now you're going to see, now we have a border. It's a little bit more pronounced than this because I went with a gray background. And then what we can do is if you want, you can go back into here, select your div. You can actually go into borders and you could add a little bit of a radius. That way it's a little bit more soft. And then there's another button that's just read more about us. So like with previous, we can go ahead and clone. Then we'll just go ahead and duplicate it down here. And we can just grab this text. And then we can change this from blog to about. And then save. Now, we've got this last section, which if you'll see is pretty close to what we have above. So what we can do is go ahead and add one more section. What we're going to do is we'll do a div again, line it in the center. This one we'll do 85%, a little bit bigger. And then what we're going to do, sorry, my dog's asleep underneath me. It's raining. She's not very happy. We're going to change the background. We're going to go look. There's the guy in the shirt. We're going to find that one. Go ahead and select it. And we'll go ahead and we'll do an image overlay so we can add a dark color over the top. That way the text will stand out a little bit better. Now what we can do is go grab this text and we can add a heading. We'll go ahead and go to the div and we're just going to set the text for the div to be white. So every text that shows up inside this div will be white by default. We'll have to change it if we want something else. Now we can go ahead and we're going to right align everything. We're going to put our text in place. And we can go into the div and add ourselves that 25 pixel border that we did to the one above to give us a little bit of a break. And we'll do a border just so they look similar. This way you kind of contain and follow the same style of what you have. Now we can go ahead and add this text. So add text. What we can do is you see how long it goes. What we can do instead is like we did before, which is we can go into size and spacing. We can change this to a percentage and just say, I don't want it to go over 65%. And then what we can do is look, see, that doesn't look all that bad, but you see our padding is a lot bigger. So what we can do is go into here, we'll go to padding and we'll make this 50 on top and 50 below. Then we'll go into here and we'll add ourselves a little bit before this text. Give a little bit more spacing. And then we can go ahead and take this button, copy it again. We're going to move that one down here. And then we can do the spacing on this one. Give ourselves a little bit more space. And oh, it's like read our beginner's information. So we can actually go ahead and place this text. And we already had the link, so we'll just come up here and select this. We'll just grab that again. And we can go replace this one real quick with that same information. And then we've already replaced our whole homepage. Save this and go to the front end. And now you have what is basically a duplication in, I think, less than 30 minutes to get through installing, deinstalling, building the home page. Now what we'll do is jump over back into the admin side. And what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to go down to templates. And now what we need to do is we're going to build a post template, but for a single post. We want to inherit from the main, which will give us that header and footer. And then we need to supply where we want this to apply itself. So under singular, you're just going to select post. So this means anything that's a post is going to get this inherited to display. Now we can publish that. And what can happen now is if I open one of these posts, now you see it's got the header and it's got our footer. Now all we have to do is structure the content inside. So what we're going to do is edit. And once we do this, go ahead and close that out. What we can do now is almost limitless. If we want to stay within this is pretty straightforward. What you're going to do is you're going to add a section, and you'll see that this is just 2 columns. So all we'd have to do at this point then is add columns. We'll do a 60-40, but I'm going to move this one. Typically about 28% is about more than wide enough. Inside this div, all you have to do is go to add, Wordpress, dynamic data, and then you're going to say content. I just want to pull the content of this post in. And then what you'll see is any stretching is going to be due to items that are bigger. So in this case, you'll see the AMA-links table at full size is too wide. And don't worry about this. This is an Oxygen CSS change to just auto height. So we'll do that in a second. So what we can do is we're going to go into manage and settings. And for just this page, we're going to go ahead and make it 1280, which will give it a little bit more width and hopefully give us a little bit more padding itself. So now you'll see everything fits inside what we want. So you could fix this because you could come in here and you could actually limit some of the context of what's in here as opposed to what's there. So as you'll see, this only shows image, brand, prime, and buy. In the default of what you'll show in the editor, you'll show all of these tabs. But now that we've got that in place, we can open this real quick. And what you'll see is only those 4. So it's not that it's as wide as it looks like here. It's just that this loads and doesn't strip away those columns that you want to hide. So it's not that it's wrong. It's just something I do to clean up what I have when I'm working with everything. That way I know everything is going to fit. While we're here, we can go into here real quick. Go to inspect. And what you'll see is this max width. What you want is the height to be auto so that it will just fix itself. It'll keep it in ratio for itself. But by default, this isn't set up this way. So what we're going to do is just go to image. We're going to go to customize. And what we'll do is inside here, we can scroll down, go to additional CSS, and we're just going to add this into here. And I'm just going to make it do it to all images by default. Just make them fit inside the space and be the right height. Publish. And then what you'll see is we'll close this, and now you'll see the image is correct. So problem is taken care of. It won't correct in here until you refresh. So we'll go ahead and save, and then we'll just reload the editor. Then what we can do is go back to here because there is the little bit. We'll just put these in place for now. So we'll just add do side. It's under. I don't actually put searches very often. So there's search. So there's WordPress's default search. Also add. I think there's. That it looks better. So there's the search box. That way you can search for whatever you want to search for, and you can do CSS to make this look really nice with HTML5. You can make it look really pretty and have this search. I'm not going to worry about it for now. And then archives, I'm not a huge person on those kind of things being in my sidebar, but you can add them real quick. They're inside add. And WordPress, this WordPress section has basically all those default things. So you could come in here and find all kinds of different stuff to put in there. All your different widgets exist, so you can do, recent posts, put them in if you want to. We can save that, and we'll reload, and you'll see they're there. And again, this is just CSS and some cleanup. I'm not a huge fan of having the archives or the search. Those are kind of just remnants from the default from GeneratePress, and I just never went back in to put anything in there. I am thinking about next putting in the, I think I'm going to do the Google AdSense and go set up and put them in place. And it'll be just one more interesting thing to have on the site. What we can do is come in here though and make this like just a bit off. That way you can kind of see. So what we have there, recent post made it to the end. That's why. So you can see the columns. What we want to do is just move this inside there. Now you have recent posts inside. Save that. That way if anybody comes here, they can have recent posts. The other thing you can do is easily pull in information. So if you wanted to, you could go back to here and add an image. Move it ahead of the text, the image on top, and then you could do data and you could actually pull in your featured image. So you could have it automatically place it like any of these other posts, themes would do. I don't tend to put it there. With all of the loading coming up for Google side and all of those things, these are your largest loading items for that when it's loading. So I'd rather just have text because this is going to be near instantaneous for its loading. So the score is going to be very nice. And most people are coming for the information anyway. They're not really coming for your featured image. I mean, lots of people like to believe they are. They're not really. So what you can do now is look at your existing text, and we'll look and see. And what were we at? We were using Open Sans around 18 pixels. So we can go into Manage, Settings, Global, then Fonts, Open Sans, that's good. We'll do the same, 300, regular, 700, limit what it's going to load for us. And then what we'll do is change this to 300. Look at it. Seems a little bit, 700 seems a little bit, ew. All right, what we want to do maybe then is, maybe regular is 500. Because there's regular, yeah, regular is 500. Okay, so we'll leave it there. And then we can change this to 18. And that'll match it up to what we had. Or instead of changing them element by element, you can actually go over to here, go to body text, and you can make all body text 18 by changing it here. You can set your default weight here. You can set a default line spacing. So as you can see, the spacing on your font, I like to put it at 1.6 or 1.7 for a little bit of space between the lines. And then now that you've got this in place, we have our posts. So now, if you're up here, you go look at the post, now you'll see these. And the posts are already done, ready to go. We are now functionally up and running without any problem for posts. So now what we have is to go back, and we're gonna have one more template we're gonna do today. We're gonna add a new template, and this is gonna be for posts, but this one's gonna be archives. You could also call it categories. You want it to import and inherit the design from main to give it the header and the footer. You're gonna go to archives and just say all archives. This is where you can get a little bit fun with Oxygen. Instead, you could build specific ones for each category, or anything that you want to assign it to. So you could build a template specifically of how blog posts would look like when they looked at the beginner info category itself. So if you had an info product aimed at beginners, you could put it there specifically. If you had one that was expert info, then you could build an info product and show it with expert info. So you can do a lot of cool stuff to make your site visually different depending on what your users are looking at. So we'll publish this, and then what we'll do is go to edit. And once we're into edit here, we can go ahead and add a section. For this one though, we're gonna have a little bit more fun. We're gonna go ahead and browse. We'll go ahead and pull in a picture. Pull in this one. What we'll do then is we'll add a heading. Make this all white. We are going to insert data. And what we're going to have this be is the archive title. So this will say whatever we're looking at. So beginner info. And you can even go as far as, if you wanted to, you could add this text, and if you had descriptions for your categories, you could actually add the archive description into here. And then what we'll do is we'll add some space because we want everybody to see that pretty picture. I don't think it's the right picture for this one because it looked kind of junky, but what we'll do is we'll make that look a little bit different by cleaning it up. And then what we'll do is change this to make it the middle, 50% and 50%. Yeah. All right. This down a little bit. There we go. That way you can see the foot bag in there. And then what we're going to do is just add a section. And we'll do, again, using easy posts. But what you're going to do in here, query, is make this default, because default will load everything within beginner info as what it loads. So instead of you setting a custom and having to go make specifically what you want, this will just load everything by default that's part of that one. So you'll see we already have this done. Now our categories are done. And as you'll note, there's 9 here. So what you see there is limited by what you set here. So if you go to settings and go to reading, blog posts to show at most, I have always set at 9 just because it always balances out. If you do 10, then it's going to go down one more and then it's going to look wonky. So I always set it to, if I'm going to do 4 posts across, then I set it at 8. That way there would be like 2 lines before the next. So it's all based on what you want to do. What we'll do is we can go back into here and I can kind of show you real quick, just changing one around. We'll go to templates. We're going to go edit with archive, or edit with Oxygen for the archive. Oh, sorry about that. And then inside the templates, what you can do is look at the CSS, and what you'll see is the width is 33% here. So what you can do is just change this. This is what I'm saying. A lot of this is really easy if you want to come back in here and change these. Now it's 25%, so we're going to fit 4 across. So now when I refresh, everything fits, but now that extra one drops in here and you have this lopsided look. This is why you want to kind of understand what you're trying to achieve when you go set those. Same thing, you can jump it up to 50% and apply. And now your posts are nice and wide. But again, it's still going to have awkward extra because there's 9 in a space where there's 2 on each line. So I'm going to change it back, and we'll just go back to 33.33. This way, this will load back this way. And from there, you can just go into here and change the size. So like you could play around with what these look like. The font is in here, like sizes and points. So these are, I'm not good with what EM stands for, but they're a different measurement than pixels. So you can come in here and change these from this to, 12 pixels if you wanted to, right? You could just do this and apply, and you'll see it change to 12 pixels here. So this EM scales better to based on resolution, so we'll change it to 1.2 and make it a little bit smaller. And then we can go down and find the content, make the, where's the font size for that side? There we go. Make the meta a little bit smaller, and then where is my... There we go. Where is side? Somewhere. All right, don't want to waste your guys' time with it. But you can come in here and change the size, and you can change what this will look like. So we'll save that with that meta change, and you'll see these get much more small. And it's the same thing if you wanted to make them go away. You could go into the template, and in here you could see these meta items. So here's the comments number and the name. You can just delete these. You can delete right at the meta and apply, and now that section is just gone. So you don't have to have those things on there. So date, time, those kind of things you can remove out of there and get nice and small, organized how you want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up because that's the basis of building a site and getting the first structure in place. And I would love to hear in the comments if you guys wanted to look at anything specific. What I do have to go back through here is actually reset up these about and contacts. As you'll see, they just load the content that's in there. I've got to go rebuild them as pages now, so that they're inside a container and they look nice and pretty. But nobody else needs to grind through the less than exciting portion of moving the site over. But please let me know below if you like this. Hopefully you've learned some stuff and that you're a little bit more open to looking at Oxygen to build stuff. We can go a little bit more complex next time, because you can make some of this post stuff look really clean and really tight, and you can really customize anything that you're interested in customizing. And this is going to continue on as I migrate these over, and I'd love to hear comments. And if anyone's interested, if you jump over there and get Oxygen and you start to work and have issues, at least you'll have some history in here as to how I go about at least the basic structure. And from there, they have a huge YouTube channel with all kinds of useful information. And then there's another I can't remember his name. I'll go find it and put it in the comments. Jonathan has a whole bunch of videos that are in addition to help you learn far more. So if you go into here, you can actually learn a lot of different things. And this is how I've spent most of my time understanding what I want to do when I'm trying to figure out something new. And you can come through here and find a whole bunch of amazing stuff for doing cool, easier than they look things within Oxygen. and they're really step by step because it's a team that's very small and they all understand what they're doing. So I would definitely recommend jumping on their page. I'll put it in the comments also, or in the description, so you can jump over to their page and watch some of these videos, because they will teach you how to use and do a lot of functions. I didn't even use the fact that you can pull in any script that exists for the web and use it to power your display. But those are for another day, and I hope everybody had a good time, and I had a good time. This is fun. I like doing these kind of things and building out stuff. I'm always trying to figure out what's the next thing that'll help everybody grow, and this one allows you to do a lot of very cool stuff. It does have a learning curve, so it can take a little bit of frustration to understand, because it is built from the developer standpoint, less from the designer standpoint. So it can take a little bit to adjust from another builder like Divi or Elementor itself. What we can do though is, for fun, we will go ahead and see what this looks like. Second page. All right. And we can see what we get. No optimization, no anything, just a swap in place of what we had. So what we'll see is mobile. I'd expect desktop. So with no attempt to do any kind of optimization at all, and a lot of this is going to be plugins, we're already there. What I can do real quick is, what we'll do is, nobody's looked at these videos in a while overall, but the asset cleanup, we'll go ahead and install. And the benefits of this is that you can easily unload things you don't want to load. Go ahead and turn it on. And then what we'll do is we'll go to pages, and what we'll do is just go to home. And down below, you'll actually see all of the settings. So what we want to do is, Amalinks doesn't exist, so we're going to unload it. We're not going to load any of its assets on this page. The table builder isn't used on this page. Oxygen is. And then from the themes, you can decide what you need on this page. So this is the fonts for the editor. And for us, we actually don't need to do that. And then you can look at these. Most of the time, I'm not going to change any of these, but you can see everything that's loading inside your site. We can update. And then what we'll do is go over to here and we'll purge everything. And what we can do is, we'll see if that changes anything. I would think since I flushed the cache, it should by default load much faster this time now that we've stopped those. Yeah, so mobile already went up to an 88, and that was just in changing a couple of things real fast. That's without going back through to optimize anything else that's in here, which obviously you could do with a little bit more work, but that 2 seconds to go optimize that page allows it to be immediately faster. And with asset cleanup, you could do that inside each post. We'll go back real quick. We want to go to the published one. So what you have is, right, we'll grab this real quick. Because your speed, when people look at the page speed insight score, they're always testing the home page, but that's almost never what your user is looking at. Your user is almost never going to be checking your home page. I mean, I know it makes everybody feel good, but it's really not the page 99% of your viewers are going to go to. They're going to be coming down to here. So you can see that page is 64 and 87. So what you can do there is the same thing. You can actually go optimize each page. So as long as I'm not doing a showcase, I don't need this. But I do have a table at the bottom. So I'm going to need to keep loading the table no matter what. So we'll just go ahead and turn off that and leave the table there. Now what we'll do is come back over to here. We'll purge the cache again. And now what we'll see is we'll go from 64 and 87. Let's see what we get now. And this is just eliminating one variable and not using Rocket or anything to change it. And now we've gone to an 84 and 98. So this is why little tools and a little bit of work can give you big rewards in the end. I don't use it to change other settings, like optimize CSS, these things. These I would leave to Breeze and setting up your caching plugins. Same thing with these, but its power is in unloading plugins on a page-by-page basis when they're not needed. Because if you remove those things, like, you'd be amazed, Elementor, even if you're not building a page in Elementor, loads on every page. So every one of your pages, regardless of whether it needs it, is loading all those resources. So it slows your whole site down. Same thing with Divi, even worse. Files are bigger. And it loads Divi on everything. So you're loading all those resources and slowing all these posts down, even if you're not using the builder. So you can go through here and you can, specifically turn off a plugin itself and just say, I don't want it to load ever, right? Inside these things, there's specifics that I never want it to load if you go that way. So that's pro with them. I don't use the pro. I'll just turn it off per post. I don't write enough posts that I need to do it bulk. I can do it on the 1 or 2 posts every week that I'm writing. But this plugin is very helpful when you're trying to just eliminate the things that make your page load slow by default and can instantaneously rocket your score up for very little work. So I hope everybody learned something useful today. And at an hour, my head's gonna explode. Need to go take a break. I hope to see you guys all soon. And if you guys want, leave in the comments what you're interested in seeing. And maybe I can just do live streams of fun stuff and building stuff as opposed to just doing videos themselves. Because this is far more fun to just do something different. And I'll have a chance to interact with people more often as you guys get a chance to come in here and see these. This is Josh for Pro Blogger Income. And I hope everybody had a good time. I will talk to you all soon.